We're live.
Okay. Hi, everyone, and thank you for being here tonight. On behalf of the Political Science Club at MSJC, I would just like to, first of all, thank the rest of the Political Science Club for helping put on this event, as well as Student Life and Development. And we also want to thank all of the current candidates and current board members for being here with us tonight. And then all of you at home or wherever you may be in the virtual world watching. Because without you, this event would not be going on right now. So I want to thank all of you for that. And then really quick, before we get started, we're going to go over some of the rules and procedures for tonight, just so everyone's real clear on it. And the candidates have all been informed about these rules and procedures as well. So each candidate will have 2 minutes as an opening remark to give any information about themselves that they see fit, and provide any background that they think is applicable to this event and to themselves. When all of the candidates have been provided with the questions ahead of time, so they've had ample time to prepare and answer. They will all be given 1.5 minutes to respond to each question. If they begin to go over, we will have to cut them off. And we will be answering this in a round robin fashion. So what that means is we're going to, the first question will be given to board member Ashley, and he will have his 1.5 minutes. We will then move on to Mr. Bragg, and then board member McGargill, and then Mr. Rivera to answer that question. They will all be answering the same question with that 1.5 minutes. And the next question will then start with Mr. Bragg and end with board member Ashley. This is not a debate. This is a forum. So what that means is that each candidate has been told ahead of time that they are to refrain from using another candidate's name or from providing any sort of rebuttal. Because again, this is not a debate. This is a space for us to collectively share ideas, if you will. And then at the end of this event, each candidate will be given 3 minutes to provide any sort of closing statement or tie up any loose ends that they see fit. And again, all of the candidates have been informed of all this ahead of time. So with that, we're just going to jump right into it. Board member Ashley, would you like to start your 2-minute introduction?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. Now, let me ask you a question. Is this different than question 1 that you shared with us?
Yes, this is different.
Yes, everyone. I'm a lifelong resident of this part of Riverside County. I grew up in Paris. I went to St. James Elementary School, and I had a Catholic education before going to Riverside Community College, and where I got my wheels under me, so to speak. Wonderful professors at RCC picked me up and saw something in me that I really didn't see in myself. My performance was really good. I was able to get into UC Berkeley, where I graduated from. I came back to my hometown of Paris to become a teacher, and I've been a history teacher at the Paris Union High School District. I was also an administrator for many years in the Paris Union High School District. Then I have a family. I have 2 kids. One that's going to go to the MSJC next year. And I'll finish by saying that I'm just a real believer in the community college system. And when I saw that there was an opportunity for me to run for MSJC, literally 8 years ago, I jumped on it. It was like a dream, and I ran a very tough campaign and won. And I've been here now for 8 years, overseeing like the building of the new Temecula campus and all the other changes that have happened to the college over the last 8 years.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, board member Ashley. Mr. Bragg, would you like to go next? You are muted, Mr. Bragg.
That always happens right when I think I'm speaking, right? Thank you, James, and thank you, Tom. A little bit about myself. I grew up here in Hemet. I'm a product of the Hemet schools, and I guess a lot of schools, because I went to Mount San Jacinto. I'm an alumnus, and what I did in my path through Mount San Jacinto was go through the transfer program and then transferred to the university where I, continued and got my degrees. I work here in the Valley. I work here, and with this COVID craziness that's going on, it makes work more difficult than it probably should be. I as well had a young family going through college. I started late. I was a late student, starting at about age of 20 when I started out at San Jacinto. But I went full bore, full time plus, and graduated. One thing that people in the college environment don't really know is I come from a 12-year background as an elected position at Valleywide Parks and Recreation District. So coming in knowing, how to use or how the board works, knowing the operations with the board member versus the president versus the superintendent and things. So I come in with skills, transferable skills that make me a valid candidate. And I just, want to say that, that along with my happy and easy demeanor makes me very approachable. And, I'm working hard or want to work hard to bring issues at the college to the board and get attention. Thank you, James.
Thank you. And Board Member McGargill, if you are ready for your opening statement.
Okay, I am. Well, I've been on the board since 2004, which just kind of staggered me to think that's now 16 years. It's a very wonderful experience. I feel very privileged to be on this board. And I was at first, oh gosh, all of a sudden I lost the word. I was appointed, but of course now this is like my third or fourth election. And interestingly, in the early 80s, I ran for a seat on the board, which at that time, it was district-wide, which was a huge district to run a campaign in. And I was opposing an incumbent, and I lost by 131 votes. So it took me from the mid-80s to 2004 to show up on this board, and I'm glad I have.
Thank you, thank you. And then last but not least, Mr. Rivera, would you like to give us your opening statements?
Most definitely. Hello, everybody. My vision for MSJC is to increase the opportunities for our students, invest in our campus, and promote MSJC as a community space. As a San Jacinto High School student, I earned college credits by being a part of the dual enrollment program. I learned about the importance of higher education with the MSJC Upward Bound program with my brothers, my most dedicated supporters. Though through these programs, I had firsthand experience in understanding the opportunities the California educational system had to offer. I earned my diploma from San Jacinto High School. I decided to explore the world and increase my experiences with the guidance from my role models. I decided to enlist and serve in the United States Navy. My first steps in service to our country. Today, I'm taking the next steps in service as your candidate and next MSJC board trustee in Area 2. I'm committed to serving our community and to ensure that our students have what they need to succeed. To take this step seriously because our community deserves a trustee that takes its needs seriously. A trustee that races to resolve the concerns and meet the needs of our growing community. I have completed my career at MSJC. I earned my bachelor's degree at UCR. I'm proud to say I'm a second-year MBA student. I did all this because my community believes in me. When communities build and invest in meaningful and equitable pathways, the limits are endless. My story as an honors and student veteran shouldn't be the exception, but rather the rule. I'll dedicate my time to ensure that every student can tell their own success story, like mine. Thank you, and I'd be honored to have your vote.
Thank you, thank you. Now all the candidates have provided their opening statements. We're going to move right into the actual questions that were provided ahead of time. These questions were submitted by the public and by the student body themselves. And again, these were provided to the candidates ahead of time. So the first question, and this will be directed towards Mr. Bragg, you will be going first on this. because of the round robin fashion. The question is, what motivates you to want to become a board member?
Got my mic going there. Thank you, James. The overwhelming reason, well, actually, I'll go back to what Dorothy said. I also ran in the late 90s. The first time I ran for this position was against Gwendolyn Slangy. It was her first term, and we were both on the ballot together, and she got it. And then I ran again against her while we were at large, and didn't make it again against Gwendolyn, because that was the time that I was able to run. So my heart's always been with students and staff and faculty. So most recently, I had a very close family member try to register for college. This was maybe the fall of last year, actually. Oh no, it was winter of this year. So it was such a fiasco. Registration and getting your books and getting your classes needs to be much better. So I want to look at reasons for that. I want to make simplifications in registration. I want to help students and staff to become, stronger as they work together, and increase staff morale, and just bring everything together, connecting all the dots with everybody. Joshua, I think your mic is still hot. So thank you, James.
Thank you. And again, I just really want to emphasize for candidates not to use one another's names in any of their statements. Next, board member McGargill, same question for you. What motivates you to want to stay as a board member?
Well, I think that our community college in this area is one of our most important assets. And I've been very involved. Before I was on the board of trustees, I was on the foundation board, very involved in raising money for scholarships. And I just think it is such a wonderful opportunity for the people of this community to have this college, right down the street. And of course, we keep adding campuses. So now we're going to have our college down a lot of streets. In fact, a very busy one over in Temecula, which we all just visited that just a couple of weeks ago. And it's quite a campus, let me tell you. So we're very proud of that because we've worked on it for several years. So I just want to be here to see what happens next.
Thank you. Mr. Rivera, you are next.
Most definitely. I'm motivated to become a board member because of my mentors. They guided me to success in my community, in the military, and in higher education. I know what mentorship does for the success of our students, and I want to ensure that I can be the best mentor, guide, and decision maker for the entire community. I want to make sure that our students have what they need to succeed in the classroom and in our community. I want to work with our classified employees, our faculty, our administration, to have an open dialogue and to resolve the growing concerns of our community college. Just as in the military, I understand the necessity of unit cohesion to accomplish our mission. That is why I want to become the next MSJC Board of Trustees.
And Mr. Tom Ashley.
Yes. Well, really what's motivated me is that, for one, I just love our community college system in the state of California. It's a remarkable institution with over 112 colleges, and it's just provided this amazing second chance opportunity for some students that, for whatever reason, it could be financial, it could be anything that might have happened that kept them from maybe getting straight into a university, like a big university. But also it gives the students an opportunity to have a much smaller learning environment compared to a big university with 1,000 people in one classroom. And I just love the system, number one. So when I had the opportunity to get involved in civic life, to run for an office, it was a natural thing for me to choose the community college system as something that I wanted to try to improve and be a part of. Secondly, I was raised in a very political family. My father retired only 4 years ago. He was a 4-term, 16-year Riverside County supervisor. And I was always very proud of him. He conducted himself with integrity. Whether you were in the business community or in labor, he just always found a fair way to solve problems and I just admired, and I still admire him. He's at home right now. They raised me to get involved. Like, don't just vote. That's not enough. Get involved. And I just love helping people more than anything else. I like helping people. When I was an administrator, I always thought that I could make the school a little bit.
So Board Member Ashley, your time is up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off.
No problem.
We will have time at the very end. I promise to come back. Yes. So our second question is going to be first directed to Board Member McGargill. The question is, prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, what were the challenges already facing education and school boards? And has there been action towards addressing these issues?
Well, I think when we ask that question, I will speak specifically to Mount San Jacinto. We have been working for years to get the funding for a couple of important STEM buildings, which we, it's a process that doesn't happen in a year, it takes several years. And so in the last year, we have gotten both of those projects approved. And I would say that before COVID-19 hit, we were just working on, making our schedules, offering more courses and providing a wonderful college experience for lots of people. And of course, COVID-19 came on the scene and kind of changed everything. But I will compliment our administration and our faculty, because it took them about 3 weeks to take that last spring semester online. So people did get to finish up the classes that they were right in the middle of. So.
Thank you. Mr. Rivera, the question is now posed to you.
For sure, thank you. Prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, the challenges facing education and the school boards are success rates, equity, budget, retention rates, completion rates, and serving our veterans. There has been an effort made, but not enough. The previous board has failed in implementing them equitably. The AAA bond was passed and the resources have been distributed inequitably. I'm here to ensure that our resources are being dispersed to our students and all of our students. I want to see our student veterans in something other than a portable building, the same portable building that they've been in when I was attending MSJC. I want to ensure that our students have a campus and a space that they are proud to be in. When I was attending UCR, our veterans had a small space with a couch and a microwave we were so proud of, because before then we had nothing. Since then, we have fought to have more student workers, a bigger space, and year after year, we continue to grow. I'm here to fight for more resources that our community, that our students, and that our veterans deserve.
Thank you. Mr. Board Member Ashley, it actually is going to you. Again, for any of those following at home, the question is, prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, what were the challenges facing education and school boards, and how have have there been actions towards addressing these issues? And you are muted, Board Member Ashley.
I'm going to go up to 30,000 feet and answer this question a little bit unorthodox, in an orthodox way. Honestly, I think the issues that we're facing the school system were actually the same issues facing our society. All right, climate change, inequity in our society, and inequality in income, and it just ravages through our community college system. and we have to deal with it at the local level. But these are major issues that are facing everyone. And I just want to remind everybody, these are things that aren't going away. Like, we're going to get through COVID somehow, and we're going to be back to some of the greatest challenges facing all of us. And I want to put a pin in that and like make sure everyone remembers that. Also, the high cost of education. Even if you get like the Board of Governors fee waiver, education is still very expensive. Like, books are expensive, computers are expensive, and we need to do more on that to cover that. When I went to community college, it was almost free. UC Berkeley was $1,350 a year. Adjusted for inflation, that would be $3,000 a year now. It would cost you $3,000 a year, Josh, to go to UC Berkeley if you were living in my generation. And now you'll be paying $14,000 a year. That is a huge issue that educators and leaders are having. And then finally, the facilities are a huge issue. And we're making great strides. It just takes so long to finally disperse those dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, I have to emphasize, I don't know if it was intentional, but we do need to refrain from using other candidates' name.
I'm sorry. I was trying to use your name and I called you. Yeah, I'm trying to use your name. Yeah. I'm so sorry.
No worries. I figured that was what it was.
James and the other candidates both start with a J. I won't get that wrong again. Sorry.
Thank you. Okay, and Mr. Bragg, the question is now posed to you.
Thank you, James. Prior to COVID, it's typically the same things in a lot of organizations. It's the budget. How do you get more? What do you do with what you have? How do you spend less? How do you move around with the world of money and finance and make things all add up to be equal? What you get is what you spend. So I would say the budget now, is that being addressed? I'm going to say yes, because if it wasn't addressed, then we wouldn't be functioning. But the COVID brings in new budget criterias. I will move into some of those budget questions later with some of my answers. But many of these challenges that we have come from a state level. They're things that we don't really have control over as a member of the community or as a member on the board. If we could just fly a magic wand and say, yeah, it's ours. But I want to look at things and see how these things are being addressed. One is the registration issues, the platform. I want to look at accessibility for all and for ADA. I want to look at the scheduling platforms that we're currently using, campus vending, online book programs, retention, security, parking, and environmental issues. Oh, see, that's my own timer. and environmental issues to make sure that we address and get those taken care of.
Thank you.
I'll do that again.
And so our third question will be started with Mr. Rivera. So the question is, the MSJC Equity Pledge recognizes that there are systemic barriers for students of different, and this is a quote from the MSJC page, barriers for students of different race, ethnicity, gender identity and expression, sexuality, national origin, socioeconomic status, disability or ability, language, religion, age, physical appearance, and intersections of these identities. So the question is, what do you see as possible solutions and ways in which we as a college can celebrate diversity and eliminate the systemic equity gaps for students of historically marginalized identities?
For sure, thank you. A few ways that the college can celebrate diversity and eliminate the systematic equity gaps for students of historically marginalized identity would be by developing meaningful programs that the college and the community have to celebrate diversity in a meaningful way. Just being a student at UCR and working on campus as a Puente mentor, I was exposed to programs that help marginalized identities, such as Chicano student programs, LGBTQ+ programs, African student student programs, Asian Pacific student programs, undocumented student programs, Native American Student Resource Center, Middle Eastern Student Resource Center, and Women's Student Resource Center, and the Veterans Resource Student Resource Center, to name a few. Having this exposure and guiding students to these resource centers, I saw firsthand the benefits programs like these had in aiding student success in higher education. And this is the diversity I would like to bring to MSJC. I want to ensure that our equity pledge is not just words on a page, but that we find value and strength in the diversity and historical roots that our students bring to MSJC.
Thank you. Board Member Ashley, the question is now posed to you.
Unmute.
I got it. So I would say I would like to start by proposing that we have a very meaningful, high quality Black or ethnic studies requirement at MSJC. I think it's time for our students who have skipped this sort of training and study to get a better idea of the history of our underrepresented communities. Also, I would say we have the Board of Trustees did sign a very full-throated equity pledge. And we didn't just do a pledge, but we are getting now monthly reports. It's part of the president's monthly report that there will be an item where the board is briefed on everything that's been done, progress we're being made. And this is relatively new. I would argue that we should have been further along by now. I will take that criticism, but we have wholeheartedly accepted this pledge, and we are working very hard towards it. And also, I support putting actionable goals in the superintendent's evaluation for progress and equity on campus, including underrepresented groups.
Thank you. Mr. Bragg, the question is now posed to you.
Thank you. When we think of barriers, I really wanted to answer this question the best that I could. And, we're looking at gender identity, origins, language, religion. All of these things are true barriers. And if we look at what are they barring the students from, it's getting their education. It's so they need to feel comfortable about the issues that they may, like the religion. Maybe they don't feel comfortable about religion. Maybe they don't feel comfortable about their race and they don't want to share those ideas. So what do we do? The question was, what do we do to solve some possible solutions? And my answer is always more engagement. Get people out there, because you don't really know other people's views unless you talk to them. So if I see somebody dressed in a different way, I might be curious. I might not have enough strength to go up and talk to them about it, but I want to have a program. So I come up with some things like interactive groups, events, booths, engagement days, diversity days, etc., to help expose and share their views. As Americans, we're a mixing pot of everything. And we should cherish our differences and similarities, but the only way that we can do that is if we converse with others. They're just one-on-one. Oh, what does this mean? What does that mean? And have explanations. Even though we might not agree with them, we can still shake hands and be productive citizens together.
Thank you. And Board Member McGargill.
Well, since we signed the equity pledge in June, we've actually had quite a few activities at the college. What was it called? Tom, you have to help me. Juneteenth. And just this last week, we've had, I forget what it was called. But so I think that we are moving in that direction. Just because we've signed a pledge doesn't mean that it's not going to take a lot of committee work, and there are many committees working in this area now, and it's going to take time to get these things all set up, but they are working in earnest to make this true and correct.
Thank you. So we are now moving on to our fourth question. And this question will start with board member Ashley's response. So the question is, in your opinion, how can MSJC best address the hardships placed on students who have been severely affected by the COVID-19 pandemic with regards to online learning and internet access, food insecurity, and other living and housing issues?
Yeah, I'm a technology coach in my day job, and I still do that. Yes. First of all, I'd like to address that in the 8 years that I've been a board member, I've worn a suit or a coat and tie for 7 years, 11 months, and 2 weeks. But there's been 2 weeks this last few months where I have worn a Black Lives Matter shirt to a board meeting because I believe in that Black Lives do matter. And I just wanted to point that out on the previous question. But moving along, these hardships are real. It's terrible. I think we need to do more in terms of loaning computers and hotspots so that students can get online and take their online classes without problems. I think we need to find students in need of textbook aid. We need to do even more than we're doing now to help students with textbook problems where they need money for textbooks. I think we need to look into providing emergency housing if we can possibly do that. We have to think very new now about what our students are going through. We are about 500 students down this semester because of COVID, and that's not as bad as other community colleges, but we weren't expecting that big of a drop. I also believe that we should ramp up our on-campus food pantry. I know it's, the campus is closed, but that doesn't mean we can't provide food for our students. Wi-Fi in parking lots sounds like a good idea to me, and a way for students to use the restroom while they're doing their work in their cars if needed. And then finally, I think my time is up, so I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bragg, the question is now posed to you.
COVID, it's such a crisis. There's so many mental health issues that come about with this. Depression, drug use, alcohol use. I believe that the counseling department can develop a program with the dean of students that can offer support. I'd like to see telephone support. If we see students, not attending class, if we get referrals from other students, just call them up or have something where we can get some feedback loop and information from how students are doing. Adding hotspots, adding surveys, through generic emails, just saying, hey, how are you doing? Do you need help with these things? Interactive questionnaires. We don't know the problem students are having unless we go out and ask. And virtual support groups. That's kind of what I was leading up to. We're all virtual right now. So using, the computers and having a support group is something that I think we should have. An increase in alcohol and drug use is happening right now. Information should be distributed. Say, hey, if you're drinking this much, you have a problem. 20-year-olds might not know these answers. Just because it's legal doesn't mean that the chronic effects of drinking every day and smoking marijuana every day doesn't affect your body. It's the adults at risk, but those are some of the things that I'd like to see that we could do to help prevent that. Thank you, James.
Thank you. Board Member McGargill, the question is now posed for you.
Okay, well, we actually have been doing things. We have the Food for Thought, where we have the food pantry, which I just drove by it the other day over at San Jacinto. It's every 2 weeks in San Jacinto, also every 2 weeks in Manistee. And, it looks like they had plenty there, and They had people lined up to get it. So I think that that has been very helpful. We did have money from the CARES Act, which was part of the stimulus package. And I think they pretty much have distributed that. But I don't know if we'll get any more for that. We do have the hot spots in the parking lot. I don't think that they're leaving the bathrooms open, are they, Tom? The shower bathrooms? No? Oh, I'm
Port
sorry.
potty.
I'm sorry, James. I said his name. I didn't mean to. Anyhow, so I think that we are addressing some of these problems or some of these issues, and it's limited by what kind of money we have to spend on that, what kind of donations we're getting to help us with this. And I'm sure it will continue.
Thank you. And thank you for catching yourself. I knew the intention of it.
I know.
Yeah. So thank you. So Mr. Rivera, the question is now for you.
Most definitely. So I think this question is one that could include partnerships with federal, state, and county and private entities to aid our students. But from a board member position, we can focus on internet and device needs by providing them to our students facing hardships. Similarly, ensuring that our staff, professors, part-time and full-time, have the resources to ensure that our students have success in their classes by providing resources, training, and support for their physical, mental, and emotional needs. Another way would be in providing proper PPE to our students to include masks, hygienic kits, and wash stations. In addition, a way to aid our students facing these hardships would be to increase our food banking efforts and again, reach out to our federal, state, county, and private entities to support our students.
Thank you. So we're now moving on to the fifth question. And this question, we will begin with Mr. Bragg. The question is, we are already seeing long-term effects on the school's budget due to COVID-19. As a student worker, I rely on my paycheck for important expenses in my life. How will you protect student workers during these times of uncertainty?
I think the answer to this is just be a strong advocate. If we are able to advocate our situations, with the state and federal government, because again, we're not making these rules at a local level at the board level. These are state and federal decisions that are coming down for us. So how do you protect the workers at this time of uncertainty? How do you protect a paycheck? And I think by communicating, as a board member, communicating with state officials, assembly and such, that we can, plead our case, because, the budget is a budget. It's hard to, squeeze more out of it. Many students get grants to help with this work. Again, those grants go for helping and working, but if you're going to help in the cafeteria, there's no cafeteria. So what do? You try to go somewhere else. And those jobs are scarce. So I feel that if you work hard and diligently to find out how we can get more grants and waivers for the students, that would be something that I would certainly want to look into, because it's beyond our local decisions at this point.
Thank you. Board Member McGargill, the question is now for you.
Okay, well, I totally agree. We have a limited amount of funds that can be used for things like this. And, it's kind of like every industry today. I mean, we spent our whole life in the airline industry, and it really troubles me to read that they are laying off thousands upon thousands of people. But since we all can't go jump on the airplane whenever we feel like we want to, and so I think that we have to understand that there are limitations as to what we can do all dependent on what other funds are going to come to us for that. And also, even during this pandemic, we find that people can be generous in their donations to the foundation. And they're really willing to have it go to any number of programs. So, we just need the avenue to keep asking, because some people can still do that.
Thank you. Mr. Rivera, the question is now for you.
Most definitely. We can't always prepare for job loss, but the current pandemic is putting undue burden on those that are trying to better their lives, such as yourself, who depend on this income and this education to make it into the middle class. Although we can't provide a definite answer, we can better address the needs of our student workers by developing partnerships with the businesses in our community, to provide paid internships for our students. Another way is by addressing the new online environment and looking to make sure supplemental instruction and tutoring efforts by students switch to an online standard to ensure the protection for our student workers, so they have a way to navigate this new online environment and have their income protected.
Thank you. And Board Member Ashley, the question is for you.
Thank you. Well, I've advocated for a $15 minimum wage for MSJC since about a year after I got on the board. My request on that didn't seem to go anywhere. It was, I feel like I didn't have the allies I needed to push that through. And budgets are about values. Budgets are an expression of like your personal values, and I really wish we could pay all of our workers, especially our lowest paid workers, a living wage. It's very important to me. And when I read this question, I was like, that's a great question, because honestly, I've been so worried about all of our faculty and our workers that are displaced. And I honestly I'll admit, I overlooked student workers. And this is like going to be a question I ask at our next board meeting. Like, what are we doing about student workers? I can tell you, our Temecula campus needs help. I bet you we have a lot of student workers that maybe they can't work in the library or in Student Resource Center, but man, they would go to that Temecula campus and make that place more beautiful, because since we're doing all the construction, the weeds have been growing up. There's things that just need to be beautified. And I mean, there's always work to be done. And if we could find some way to keep the student workers employed, I'd be all for it. But I'm going to ask about this.
Thank you. So now we are moving on to our sixth question. And this question, we will start with Board Member McGargill. The question is, and this sort of ties into this previous question that we just went over. What are programs that could be implemented to help support students that are raising a family?
Well, one of the programs that we've had at Mount San Jacinto has been our child care center, which of course had to close because of COVID. But anybody that was a student could take their child there, and it's a wonderful, wonderful program. Very modern and up to date, and of course it had to close. And I had another question today that made me kind of laugh, because they said, there's so many distractions at home. And I'm thinking, yes, isn't that the truth for almost everybody, especially somebody that has children? There's just distractions when you're trying to be on a meeting like this. But I would say one of the most important things that we were doing, and we will begin to do again when we can be open, is to provide childcare for students, because that is a very difficult, especially, if you're going to school during the day. It's very hard to find quality childcare, and our childcare is of the highest quality. The other thing is that I just think that we need to continue our Food for Thought program, because the grocery stores are just out of sight. Prices, I've been amazed. I don't really usually pay that much attention, because I usually try to get my husband to go to the grocery store. But you know, during the pandemic, you have to go somewhere sometime. So I'm hoping that we can continue that program to help them with their food issues, because it really helps to go get a big bag or box of groceries to take home.
Thank you, Board Member McGargill.
Thank you.
Mr. Rivera, the question is now for you.
For sure. I think firstly, providing more funding for the CARES Act, which provides our single and head of household parents counseling, childcare grants, graduation packs, meal cards, and assistance with books, some supplies, and community referrals would be a step in the right direction. I think that there are programs that are underutilized, underfunded, and inequitable. Family days at the college are useful, like Dia de la Familia. They talk about creating a community that values and dedicates time and money to education. I believe we can offer space for our families by creating a community space and child daycare while they're attending classes, something similar to what's offered at UCR. Informing student parents about the importance of applying to financial aid and academic support programs such as EOPS, which serves to provide assistance to first-generation low-income students by offering academic assistance. Ultimately, in the end, it is up to us to uplift all of the community members, including those who are raising families.
Thank you. Board Member Ashley, the question is now for you.
Thank you. I think it's very rare in California community colleges to offer housing. I understand that, and it's a very unconventional idea, but around the rest of the country, it's not weird at all. It's very common, and maybe it's time for us to consider student housing or family housing. So it's something to consider, and I think we need, and our San Jacinto campus has nearly an additional 50 acres, maybe 40 acres more than we need. It's right next to housing. It would be appropriate to have some housing there. So I would be willing to look at that. Also, I think we need to be very cognizant with our scheduling to have flexible online, in-person, hybrid schedules that would cater to families. And also, I think that childcare isn't always a persistent problem all semester long or all year, but sometimes there's an emergency because of poverty issues or just human issues for anyone. And to have, let's say, a few, you get maybe 5 per semester, 5 tokens of childcare. We have our childcare center. You can't bring them in all the time. We just can't afford it. It would overwhelm our facility, but you can come in a pinch and you can, not have to miss your class. And then finally, I think we'll just double down on the food pantry and maybe look at providing like essentials for toddlers, like diapers and things like that, as well as food.
Thank you. Mr. Bragg, the question is now for you.
So what programs will we implement to help students raising the families? And I went here as a young man with a very young family, toddlers. And that's a time of my life when I needed a lot of help. Some of the things that I could see, families needing would be online programs. And I think just connecting people, even with, Zoom and virtual programs, can help people know where to go to ask questions. The college currently, there's so much information on your web pages. It's just like it's camouflaged, all the information. You just don't know where to go. You have to read this little word. And I think having an overhaul of how our websites are looking and how we're communicating with people in our community to make it easier for them to find the help that they need. Online programs, online classes. What I would have liked to have had is at the time, is good food at nighttime. I noticed that San Jacinto is losing a lot of classes, and that's, a disadvantage to the population here in Hemet. I know there's busing programs, short-term loans for books, food support, COVID virtual support as well, book assistance, night classes, equity to all campuses, and tutoring. And tutoring support, utility support, and questionnaires.
Thank you. And so we are now going to move on to our seventh question, which will be, we will start with Mr. Rivera. The question is, when schools are able to reopen in Riverside County, it's unlikely that in-person learning will return to its pre-COVID normalcy. What precautions do you see as absolutely necessary for this eventual transition back?
Most definitely. A few of the necessary precautions would be increased testing, hygienic stations everywhere on campus, increased classroom sanitation, daily student self-checks, and reporting with weekly testing. I would also advocate for more PPE for our students returning to this in-person learning environment. Wastewater testing may be also a viable solution, similar to colleges that are currently utilizing this practice, like UCSD. So definitely.
Thank you. Board Member Ashley, the question is now for you.
Thank you. What our previous speaker just said is all dead on. First of all, let's all acknowledge that COVID-19 is real. It's killed 215,000 people in this country. It's a highly contagious disease. It's like 6 to 8 times more deadly than the flu, okay? For people that are just kind of living in denial, I'm sorry, it's real. And we're not going to bring our teachers and students back and put them in harm. We're going to, safety has got to be number one. No matter how much that sucks, it's going to be number one. But of course, safety protocols must be followed. Much more disinfecting, much more contact tracing, testing of faculty. But I want to finally remind everyone that if we would actually take this pandemic seriously as a society, we could be a lot more like Taiwan or some of the other countries like South Korea, where they almost have none. They go around with no masks now because it's so small. They can treat a individual breakout like a national emergency and go after it and knock it down. So we don't have to go back, halfway, half-sized. We could actually work together and beat this thing. It is beatable. I think people forget about that since we've been struggling with it for so long.
Thank you. And then Mr. Bragg, the same question for you.
Well, when we come back, that's always the question. PPPs, of course, PPEs are definitely something that we need to have supporting. Hand washing stations, flyers and bulletins, saying how to prevent the virus, washing hands, just, having people, take it seriously. I think we need counseling to follow up, have student interactive stations where they can get information. I think having students know how are they supposed to follow the protocols that are in place, wearing the masks. How is the staff going to enforce wearing the masks? Are there going to be mask police on campus? What exactly is going to be required? Because there's going to be some conflicts, testing and vaccines, maybe by next year in a few months that will be something that, could be promoted on campus. Student, staff, and faculty technology and the ability to use it, get the knowledge, get the training. And then of course the contract negotiations that are going to be required to help form a consensus on whose duties are what duties are this, and the new duties that change for those that have been displaced. So yeah, staff training especially. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member McGargill, the question is now for you.
Okay. Well, I'm going to just agree with, and I can't say their names, so I'll just say the other candidates' statements about this. Once we know that we can reopen, I'm sure the guidelines will be different than they are right now. And we've talked about these things, having the cleaning stations and, filtering the air better and all of these kinds of things. But I think it's going to we'll really know when we know we're going to reopen and see what the guidelines are at that time. I'm sure we'll be absolutely, we're going to move into action and do that, because the ultimate goal, I think, for almost everyone is to be back on campus.
Thank you. So we are now going to move on to our 8th question. And we will, this question will start with board member Ashley. So the question is, many college students are regularly faced with mental health struggles. And while MSJC does currently offer several services for mental health, are there more ways in which MSJC can address these issues? And if so?
Great question. And I would, first of all, let's not throw away like we're already doing a lot, because that's an insult to how, not to the question, but it's an insult to what the college has already done. The college fought so hard. The student body voted. They wanted student health centers. It was a tough battle. It was postponed. The vote had to be retaken 2 months later from the trustees. One of the presentations was a little off and it caused a delay. And we ended up getting that passed, and it was not a unanimous vote. And those student health centers now are at every large campus, and they have great mental health resources. So I think what I would say is, with what we already have on campus, we need to educate our students and teach our students and our faculty and all the workers to know what these services are, so that when someone has an issue, they're utilized. It's great to have a service. If it's not being used, it's worthless. Other than that, also, I think during this pandemic, we're realizing that employer-based healthcare is looking pretty rattly at this point. You lose your job like 30 million people did, and now we're still 10 million short from where we were. All those 10 million, they don't have health insurance unless they're using a government like provided health coverage. Maybe we need a better health system.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bragg, the question is now for you.
Mental health and the college campus, like I heard, there are efforts in place, but there's so much more that we can do. For example, develop a way to how to support the students that have those difficulties. Is there ability where they can go into counselors right away if they're having, for lack of a better word, a bad day or a breakdown? Do they have exit strategies to where if they're in these classrooms and something is, tilts them the wrong way and they need some place to go and reset themselves? Do we have those types of rooms available on campus? What about the student awareness of disabilities? Many people that have the disabilities feel comfortable sharing about what issues they have. For example, I met somebody with Tourette's, and completely caught me off guard, but then they explained themselves to me and were so apologetic. It's just being aware of others, being aware of those situations. I think we could have campaigns, awareness forums, events, collaborate with staff for virtual support, with students that have these, give incentives for students that are attending these groups, and seek grants so we can find ways to spend money to support these programs, are all things I'd like to see.
Thank you. Board Member McGargill, the question is now for you.
Okay, well, I think that we are off to a pretty good start working with mental health issues. And of course, once again, we have our student health centers. They had just opened. They were all staffed. And then COVID came roaring in. So I think that we're really working on that. And I can see that program growing. And I think that they're even doing some counseling right now, I'm sure, over some kind of virtual counseling. So it will be very good when they can reopen, and it's pretty readily available to people. I mean, I think they take drop-in appointments, and they'll do things like give them flu shots and things, make those kinds of things available to them. So it's just, we just have to get them reopened.
Thank you. And then Mr. Rivera.
Yes, yes, there are most definitely ways that MSJC can address the growing mental health needs of our students. One way would be by increasing therapists for student needs and promoting telehealth counseling services. Another way would be to have a central location or place that students can contact to receive mental health services they need, and including 24/7 support services for students in need. In other words, mental health hotlines. One way UCR treated the stress of midterms and finals was by providing animal support services, games for our students, and stress relief workshops. And this was something I saw that had a positive effect on our student body.
Thank you. We are now moving on to our 9th question, and we will start with Mr. Bragg for this one. So the question is, how do you think the MSJC student body and faculty can build and maintain strong community bonds with one another while staying on an online platform for the foreseeable future?
That's a really tough question because we're all using this online platform. But what I was told, my attitude is about online is if you can do it face to face, you should be able to do it online. And as weird as that sounds, that's the world we live in today. So, I'm a strong community member. I get around, and it's rare that I see people from Mount San Jacinto community. I'm not saying that they're not out in the community. People aren't out, but I don't really see advocates out there as much as I personally would like to see. But I'd like to see that change. What would that look like? I'd be like representatives, whether students, faculty, or staff, maybe visit community service groups and give small updates, like the Temecula Project, things like the Rotary or Lions Club, or just different programs, maybe even within the city at local events, maybe even the Farmers Corners. I know those tables are available, and just share in the community, because you have to build strong communities. And personally, I think that, campus personnel are more apt to visit Menifee and other campuses over there than just Hemet and San Jacinto. So community events, sponsored programs, things like parades, college days, recycle events, register to vote events, and others would be ways that you can communicate with and build a bond.
Thank you. And Board Member McGargill, the question is now for you.
Well, I would say that I am too very involved in the community and go to lots of events. And so maybe we're just not that visible. I don't know. But, and I do know that they have set up at different outdoor events. But again, unfortunately, I just hate to keep belaboring this fact, but nothing is like it was before COVID. So I kind of lost track with what the question is.
The question number 9, how do you think MSJC student body and faculty can
Oh,
build?
I was on the wrong question. I'm so sorry.
No.
I think that I don't know what they can do. I think that many of them are interacting through their classes, but again, right now with the way things are, I don't know how they do that. And I think I don't know what the professors are doing, if they're reaching out other than just regarding the class. I don't know what they're doing, but it's very hard to keep that community under these circumstances. I mean, I can hardly wait to get back to an in-person meeting myself.
Thank you. Mr. Rivera, the question is now for you.
Sure. Well, being a current graduate student during this pandemic and trying to traverse this difficult environment, I see a few ways that faculty and the student body can maintain a strong community bond. Building the relationship between students and professors is a two-way street. and administrators need to promote that partnership. One way that I manage is by making a commitment to my professors and my class. And as a student, I knew that I was responsible to my work as a student. Another way I work to build great connections with my professors is during this online environment is by attending office hours and creating that network with my professor. I attend online workshops put on by our campus and career center. So I would say both students and professors must engage in communication while trying to navigate these new environments.
Thank you. Board Member Ashley.
Okay, well, I got some bad news for you guys. You're gonna have to spend some money on a more comfortable chair because the answer to this question is you're gonna have to do a lot more online stuff, even after you've spent most of your day online doing your job. The way to make this work is to be tough. Be tough. You got to work a little harder. You're going to need to go to meetings for city councils online. You need to be there. Go to meetings for MSJC Board of Trustees. We've seen our viewership for MSJC go way up. Could someone turn off their mics?
Yeah.
I can hear your feedback. If you could make your mics go off. I reclaim my time now. But the other thing is get involved in clubs. After listening to a professor, like for an hour online, you go to a club, you get to talk, you're an equal. Everyone's so lovable. They all are going through the same thing you are. Get involved in a club. I watched Pride Week last week and it was just like amazing. Like just the camaraderie there. And you could just tell there wasn't a faculty member making them do everything. They were doing it. And also like the Juneteenth celebration was amazing. The Latinx History Month was phenomenal. You got to get involved in these things, and it will lift up our community bonds and your spirit, for that matter.
Thank you. We are now moving on to our 10th question, and we will start with Board Member McGargill for this one. The question is, what role do you see MSJC playing in terms of giving back to its surrounding communities?
Well, I think one of the wonderful programs that we had was dual enrollment, and I don't think they're doing that in this online environment at this time. Both of our campuses have wonderful little theaters, and those were things that really welcome the community to the campus. Their all of their programs, their music programs, their dance programs, their art gallery, all of those things are wonderful things to attend, which I think are very giving to the community, just because it provides something right here for people. And so I'm looking forward to them being able to reopen those kinds of things.
Thank you. Mr. Rivera, the question is now for you.
Most definitely. A way to give back to our surrounding community would be by creating celebrations for inclusivity that MSJC teaches the community for the jobs to meet the needs of the community. One example would be the nursing program, meeting the needs of our community, and the hospital partnership and local medical professionals. Another way would be to promote a community garden, as I am a farmer and work for creating spaces for communities by a program that I am currently a part of. Also, we can work with local groups such as veterans, businesses, local clubs, and schools to promote MSJC as a community space. This is actually been a cause of concern when addressing community members. They have told me they want to know more of what is going on at our campus and how they can be involved. So I see this being essential to work with and to promote our community.
Thank you. Board Member Ashley, the question is now for you.
Yes, community colleges give back to the community in so many amazing ways. When I was growing up, there was all these great film festivals that I would go to at RCC. And what I see with MSJC giving back to the community, and it's going to be different right now, but we're not always going to be at home with COVID, and we'll be back in some foreseeable short future. And let me say, concerts led by students. art shows, photography, painting, having great art shows that celebrate local talent, film festivals, like I already mentioned. We're about to have a beautiful new stadium in Menifee. We can bring all the high schools, like, you know, the big high schools all around Menifee that have these big football teams. They can come to a bigger, more beautiful venue to have their big games at. Also, things like we're doing right now, political discourse and debates. It's a perfect thing for a community college to take the lead on in a community with with our educated professors and great active students having great forums like that. And then also, like, let's remind everyone that we have these wonderful focus classes that's like how to like get sourdough starter going and how to make bread and how to do these things. And we've been doing that for years. And like, it's awesome. Like, people do take advantage of those. If you don't, you should look at them. They're a lot of fun.
Thank you. And then Mr. Bragg, same question for you.
How do you give back? That's always my mic on there. That's always the big question. Yeah, I live here in the community. I'm always driving around. I think the college, either they're doing these activities in other areas because we span such a large geographical area, because I don't see a lot going on here in Hemet. By no offense, that I don't mean that by any offense. I think the college could do a better job with promoting community events. You know, even simple things like the Ramona pageant, the local, you know, the races that we do here, you know, like the triathlons. I think we could sponsor programs like bike races, fishing tournaments, sports, tutoring, and such. I think we should get some people, put some marketing on Facebook, being able to communicate what we're doing, be able to communicate the programs that we already have in service. Get the clubs to get out there and serve. We have the nurses, the sports teams, political science. We have diversity groups, drama, and others. Get out and promote their ideas. Donate the gyms and the fields to local sports people where they can have tournaments at. Give technical skills with the professor, get them out to work on that, and so much more that I don't have the time to cover. But I think in summaries, to get out there and serve.
Thank you. We are now moving on to our 11th question. And we will start with Mr. Rivera for this one. And this is a long one, so hang in there with me. Voting is essential for the individual to voice their opinion and have an impact on their communities and country. But the highest voter turnout in Riverside County since 2002 was in 2016, with only 75% of registered voters casting a ballot. And this fell to 64% in the 2018 midterms. And all that comes from the Riverside County Registrar of Voters and the Press Enterprise. So the question is, do you see MSJC playing a part in advocating for nonpartisan voter registration, voter turnout, and voting information? If so, how do you see this being achieved?
Gotcha. Well, we have a Secretary of State that is allowing pre-registration so 16-and-a-half-year-olds can register early and be ready to vote when they turn 18. This year on the ballot, we have a proposition that will allow individuals who turn 18 by election day to have the opportunity to vote in both the primary and general election. Another way we can promote voting is by turning MSJC into a polling place to allow our students the ability to vote on campus. This is what UCR does. And I have voted on campus before during my busy school schedule. This has alleviated the stress of voting and being a commuter student by allowing me to engage in my civic duties. Also, we can have our professors, staff, and administration promote civic engagement, but ultimately, the responsibility lies with every one of us to vote. So please go out and vote.
Thank you. Board Member Ashley, the question is now for you.
Yes. The way you phrased our voter rate, 75% was our best. Of course, that's only registered voters. And if you went to eligible voters, it would be far less. And then if you went to voters under 35 years old, it is a national disgrace. Like, you young people, you're not voting. Vote. I'm stealing your vote every time I vote, but maybe I vote just like you, so it doesn't hurt so bad, but I could kind of use the support. Young people, you're not voting. You need to get out there. And I know what it is. I would register seniors at my high school where I work. And many seniors say, because our politics have gotten so toxic, they feel like just the act of voting is like getting in an argument. They don't want the conflict and stress. And I'm sorry, you don't get to make, like, that's not a legitimate reason. And so I will say this, if you notice on our students' calendar, it has voting day listed on our calendar, but it's just a normal school day. The reason it's listed on the calendar is because I pushed the superintendent very hard when I was the president of the board to have that day off for all employees and all students so that we can all vote and not have to worry about running kids around or having the time off. And he tried, there was some problems. And I think, maybe we need to retry because we need everyone voting. And I would agree, we need to get our campuses to be polling places for sure. That is an easy one. And I would go so far in the future. I wish voting, first of all, we should be automatically registered. You shouldn't have to register. You're a citizen, you turn 18, you're registered to vote. And I'll leave it at that because my time's up.
Thank you. Mr. Bragg, the question is now posed for you.
So should we be a part of a nonpartisan voter registration? There's kind of a fine line there. My answer is yes, we should be involved with nonpartisan, but the trick is helping teach younger students or students of the college, as passionate as they might be of a particular issue, how to properly propose that. Like you were talking about debates and the political science club, being able to go through and look at all of the ballot and see which propositions are important to us. If we look at Prop 22, that's probably something that a lot of young people would look into. What are the benefits and the challenges that has for people, the state, the community, and the drivers and such, and the people that are doing the gigs. And explain to them, have little, maybe little tables that say, hey, this is what this proposition means. Do you really want that? Are you excited about it? Or do you not like it? So being a frontline leader and having the tables out, having voter registration tables, get out the vote promotions, take the time to vote, and lose that skepticism of I'm too busy would be something I would want to promote.
Thank you. Board Member McGargill, same question.
Well, I always think that we should promote voting. I registered to vote when I got out of high school, and I believe I have never missed an election. So that's a long time. So I think that we really do need to encourage that. There's been so many things going on this election, like our ballot. I just got my ballot today. And we're supposed to have a candidate statement that comes before, and I don't have that. Do you all have your ballots? There's a ballot, there's a ballot. Tom, do you have a ballot? Well, when did you get yours? Anyhow, so I just got mine tonight. And so I don't know exactly what the registrar is doing, but they're behind, that's for sure. Anyhow, but yes, I think that we should do that. And I think the college is an ideal place to have a polling place. Ideal. The only thing is it wouldn't be in everybody's polling area, like the people that work there. I don't know if you'll ever win that, get the day off, Tom. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that. Anyhow, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. So we are now moving into our closing statements. And for this, we're looping right back around to Board Member Ashley. You are first. Again, for everyone watching, wherever you may be. The candidates have 3 minutes to make any closing statements or tie up any loose ends. Board Member Ashley, we are beginning with you.
First of all, I would just like to say thank you very much to James. What a fantastic job you've done communicating with me and all the other candidates far in advance, sending reminders. You've done a perfect job, very professional. And the Political Science Club and the advisor has been wonderful. It's an honor to be here. And I'll just remind everyone that might be listening out there on the web, no one's running against me. You don't get an opportunity to vote me down or vote for me. So I'm not on any ballot, but I was invited to come, and I always would show up to our student organizations if invited. So I'm here. So in case anyone's confused, like, who am I running against again? I'm unopposed, so I'm not on any ballot. And so I'm going to cede the rest of my time to the other candidates that are in a contested race, because I've gone over several times. So thanks everyone for having me.
Thank you, Board Member Ashley. Mr. Bragg, closing statements.
Get my microphone on there. Again, I want to say thank you, James. Appreciate all the effort and the communication and getting all of this going. It's such a wonderful community service. That's one of those little things that you do to help, get the college name out there, to get the club's name out there and promotion. So that's good. I want to leave by just kind of summarizing some of the skills that I specifically bring in. I'm an alumnus of the college. I started as a young adult. I got actually 2 degrees. Got my AA degree, and then I got my AS degree and transferred out. I know what it's like to go through and be a student. I know what it's like to see problems on campus. The restrooms that don't work or that haven't been cleaned in a week. I know what it's like when you try to go get something to eat and everything's sold out. I know what it's like to battle that registration process. And I know what it's like to work and have to struggle and say, oh my gosh, I have to go to this night class and it's 10 o'clock and I have to wake up at 6 in the morning. And, I have that experience that might be extremely different from some of the other candidates. I'm involved in education every day. I'm familiar with how that role works from, all the way, from the student. That's my priority in here, is making sure the students get everything that they need. Faculty and staff, support the students. And then we have administration, and between all of that, we kind of mold together into a program that is successful. And that's what we need. We need to have, attitudes of strength and attitudes of wisdom when we're talking with collective bargaining units. And I support those. I think that, collective bargaining is the way that, we need to manage, employees, staff, and faculty. I have 12 years experience at Valleywide. And even though they're somewhat different, they're still a board. They're still, the head of the board, the superintendent, or general manager, whatever you want to call them. The names are different, but I know how to use the staff in the background. I know how to use different offices to support, maybe with finance or the deans or something. I know how to do this. I have an ear to listen. I'm an advocate for all stakeholders, everybody with abilities, disabilities, and my happy, approachable demeanor is the strongest reason where I want to say, please vote for me, John Bragg, District 2. Thank you again, James.
Thank you. Board Member McGargill, 3 minutes for closing statements.
And I would like to also compliment you, James. You did a beautiful job, and I thought your communication was wonderful. I did have trouble locating the numbers, but it was such small print that I just missed it. So, and you got right back to me, so thank you. I have very much enjoyed my time on the board. I feel that I have made a valuable contribution, and I feel very strongly about supporting the scholarship program at the college. And I think when we're asking others to support the college, we have to be willing to support it ourselves. And so I'm looking for another term, and I thank you very much.
Thank you. And then Mr. Rivera, 3 minutes for a closing statement.
Gotcha. First off, I'd like to thank everybody for allowing me to speak here tonight. I'd like to say that I'm a community member of San Jacinto. I grew up in our valley. I attended our elementary schools, our middle schools, our high schools. I graduated from MSJC and worked at San Jacinto High School. I was raised by our community and want to serve our community. I want to make the best decisions I can for the entirety of our community. Unlike our current board, who, when given the opportunity to vote for the California Promise, which provides free community college education for our students, chose not to, aside from one member. I want to make sure that the best decision for our community are made and not decisions that go against our community. I want to invest in our students, in our campus, and promote MSJC as a community space. I want to have an open dialogue with our community members, our classified employees, faculty, administration, and students to address the concerns of our growing community. So if you want to be involved in my campaign, a campaign for change, please check out my website. That's joshua4trustee.com. It's going to be joshua4trustee.com. You can get involved in a few ways: volunteering, spreading the word to our community members. That would be greatly appreciated. Another way is by checking our social media page, which is @Joshua4Trustee, where we upload daily content and provide ways to be involved in your local politics. And we can all make a difference today for our community. Again, thank you all for giving me this time, and thank you to the MSJC Political Science Club for hosting this event. Thank you, James, and I'd be humbled to have your vote. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you. And so with that, we have went through all of our lovely questions. We've had some great answers, and closing statements are now over. So I would like to thank once again Student Life and Development and the Political Science Club, which I'm a part of, and for helping put on this event, and for the board members and candidates for attending, and then everyone at home or wherever you may be watching this for tuning in and watching and supporting this. Thank you very much.